Hi, I'm Hannah Kelsey. I'm Miss Boston, USA 2026, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. My guest for tonight is a newly crowned Wimbledon champion, Hannah Kelsey. Hannah, how are you?
I wish. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'll go through Hannah's actual bio. Hannah and I have been talking tennis a little bit behind the scenes. Hannah is she's Miss Boston, USA, as you heard. She's a driven biomedical engineer with a passion for advocacy, health, and empowering others through resilience. Holding both a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and a Master of Science in Engineering, she combines intelligence, compassion, and determination in every aspect of her life and career. Hannah was homeschooled growing up in order to pursue competitive tennis, where she developed the discipline, confidence, and perseverance that continue to shape her professional and personal pursuits today. In addition to her work in healthcare, she has over a decade of modeling experience working with notable brands, including Nordstrom, Living Proof, and Jovani. Most importantly, Hannah's perspective has been profoundly shaped by her journey as a brain tumor survivor. Her experience inspired a deep commitment to improving the future of cancer care and advocating for patients and families facing similar challenges. Recently, she traveled to Washington, D.C. to advocate for increased funding for brain tumor treatments and greater affordability and accessibility in cancer care. Her story of overcoming adversity fuels her platform of resilience, faith, and purpose. In the pageant world, Hannah proudly earned the title of first runner-up to Miss Massachusetts USA 2025, where she continues to use her voice to inspire confidence, perseverance, and the courage to pursue one's purpose despite life's obstacle. And you can follow her on Instagram, Hannah E. Kelsey, and TikTok, the Hannah Kelsey. Hannah, did I miss anything?
No, that's a good summary. Thank you.
That's pretty comprehensive. You just got back from Miami. Do you want to catch everyone up with how Miami was?
Yes, it was so much fun. I went to Miami Swim Week, and it was my first time ever going down for Swim Week. And it was so cool because I actually got to meet Miss USA and walk in a Swim Week show with her. And I had no idea that was going to happen. I actually was just going to castings and got casted in the same show as her and Miss Teen USA. So it was just a happy coincidence, but it was really a great experience.
What was it like meeting those two?
They're lovely. They're so genuine, down to earth, and they really have quite a sparkle and it factor when you meet them in person. So they were the sweetest. They couldn't have been nicer and so accommodating. Everyone wanted pictures with them, myself included, but random people that we met on the street. They were very lovely.
Now, did you said I just interviewed your friend Michaela Green, and Michaela famously outed herself. She said to Shawn Mendes, "Wow, you smell real nice." Please tell me you behaved yourself with a bit more like composure when you went up to Audrey. Then please tell me you didn't tell her that she smelled nice.
No, but I did. I was like, "Can I have a picture, please? I don't want to be a fangirl, but I did want to get a picture with her." She was so nice, though. Of course, she accommodated.
I think that's a bit more understandable than telling someone that she smelled nice. Did I see right that during one of the nights it absolutely poured down? I saw a few of you looking like absolute drowned rats. What happened there?
The weather during swim week couldn't have been worse. At least we knew it was going to be hot, but the rain, it was just constant rain. And when you have your hair and makeup done and you're doing these shows and most of them are outside, it was just pouring rain. It was crazy.
How do you manage to navigate that? Because I imagine a lot of the time you're wearing heels or you're barefoot. I mean, the stage must have been pretty slippery.
The stage was slippery. Thankfully, I didn't slip, but I did have to buy an umbrella because that was not something I packed, and I had to buy one while I was there.
I was going to say, I mean, most of the time you're probably in a swimsuit anyway, so at least that part's okay, but the hair and makeup probably wasn't the best. But that was your first time over there at Miami Swim Week, was it?
It was. And it was a bucket list thing. I'd always wanted to go to Miami Swim Week. And so I flew down. I didn't have any shows booked, actually. So I just kind of took a chance, went down, did a bunch of castings, and ended up booking 3 shows. So I was really proud of myself and glad I went.
Wow. Okay. So just for people watching, and I know there's more than a few pageant girls who dream of going or want to go to Miami. If you go down and you don't have anything booked, how do you plan it out? Like, what do you do? Do you just turn up and you standing in a line with a bunch of other girls waiting for casting, or are you more strategic than that? How did you plan it out?
I had applied to a bunch of things online prior. So there are castings you can do remotely, but then there's also castings that they post on social media that I showed up to in person. And then you do wait in the line with a lot of girls, but it's kind of a mixed bag. I know if you have an agency in Miami, it's a lot easier. I personally don't. I have an agency up here in Boston. So I kind of just tried to hit it from all angles. And I know some people book a lot of shows. Some people went down and didn't book anything. So I was happy and grateful for the experience that I was able to book some shows.
Sounds like you had a great time. Now, why don't you tell the people watching? There are lots of angles to your story, but let's start with the pageant one. How did you get into pageants to begin with?
Mostly because of my mom and my older sister. So my mom had done her high school pageant when she was younger, and she always spoke very positively about it. And then my sister as well actually competed in the Miss America organization. So growing up, we always watched Miss USA, Miss Universe, and I started getting involved in modeling when I was 14. So it kind of just seemed as a natural extension of that. So I entered my first pageant when I was 14 in the Miss Teen USA, a local pageant, and that was the start. And I've been in it for 10 years now.
Why'd you keep going? There must have been something that kept you in it. What was your favorite part?
Definitely the self-growth. I mean, you do make a lot of friends through it. It's really nice to meet girls who are well-rounded, who are like-minded, but just the self-growth that I experienced through pageant kept me coming back year after year, even when I didn't win. And I've lost a lot more than I've won throughout my pageant journey, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I think pageant force you to grow in all areas of your life. I feel like I've grown in my communication skills, in my confidence. I'm a nerd, like I'm an engineer. So I feel like growing up, I always had my head in a book. I was very quiet and shy. So, if younger me could see me now feeling confident enough to do an interview with you that broadcasts to strangers all over the internet, she would think that's crazy. But I've grown so much in my confidence, and I credit a lot of that through pageants.
Speaking of strangers on the internet, Morgan, have you got your clipping software ready? Morgan has said, "Hi, my angel." Hannah, can you just tell Morgan how great she is? Because she'll want to clip this and put it on this.
She's the best. I am so grateful for Morgan. Thank you for being the best trainer ever. She really treats her patients and her girls with care. And I know there's a lot of people in the pageant industry that it's hard on girls mentally, physically, and you really need someone who supports you, and she gets it. So I'm really, really grateful for her.
I think you may have referred to her as having patience. I will go with clients, not patients. We're not talking Morgan adopted. Yeah. Can you tell me, because I know that you're quite tall, right? Well, very tall, 5'11", close enough to 6 foot. Were you similar to myself in terms of you hit that height very early on? Because I was about 6 foot at the age of 13.
I definitely grew early on. I actually remember when I was in elementary school, when me and my brother were walking into elementary school together. I think I was in 5th grade and he maybe was in 1st or 2nd. I got stopped at the door, and they thought I was the babysitter dropping my brother off. And I said, no, I go to school here. So people always thought that I was older than I was because of my height. But yeah, I grew a lot when I was younger. I was always taller than all the boys in my class, always the tallest in the classroom. So I didn't like it growing up, but definitely tennis and then modeling and pageantry helped me grow into it.
Because I wanted to ask, because I don't know about you, whether you had school photos done, but in year 6, I still remember I have a school photo, and there's a lot of people who are almost literally half my height. I mean, it looks ridiculous. But I think for a guy, it's kind of a badge of honor to be tall. Whereas, as I mentioned to you before we went live, I think when you're super tall as a girl, it can almost be a bit embarrassing. Like you don't want to stand out. And as I mentioned to you, I work with a lot of the taller girls, and they would have very bad posture because they didn't want to stand out even more than they naturally did. So I'm just curious for yourself, did you go through that? And then if so, did pageantry help you overcome that or teach you how to embrace yourself rather than trying to hide it?
Yes, absolutely. I think even what you said in school photos, everyone who's tall goes to the back, and I was
Yeah.
always the tallest. So I was in the back of the line. And as a girl, I do think it's different than guys because as a girl, we're taught by society to be as small as possible. And so I always felt bigger than everyone. And even if it was just my height, I just felt big and I felt insecure about that. And it was something that I got made fun of a lot for and teased for because I was so tall. So I didn't like my height for a long time, but I do credit pageants a lot for helping me grow into that because in pageantry and especially within Miss USA, having height is a big advantage. And being 5'11", I'm usually the tallest, if not one of the tallest on stage. And I think it makes me stand out.
Morgan has said crying in the club. I don't know if that's lingo that I'm unfamiliar
It's
with. But
probably because I'm still have my work brain on. And again, I work in the medical device field. So I'm like patience, patience, patience all day. So I'm sorry I misspoke, but I trust Morgan with everything. So she could be my doctor too.
I think Morgan might want to go back and get her doctorate at some point. So maybe, although it won't be a medical doctor, it will be a PhD. So maybe we'll be calling her.
Maybe I'm foreshadowing here a little.
We'll be calling her Dr. Morgan in no time. Tell me about your personal growth journey. You mentioned it already through pageants. You entered fairly early. I know for the United States, sometimes 14 is seen as late. Some people enter at the age of 2 or 3. But 14, I mean, was a while back. What is the personal growth that you've experienced through pageants? I mean, you started in Teen USA. I read in your bio that previous year you came what I think in many ways is the hardest position to come, which is first runner-up. Because if you're a competitive person, very often you look at it and go, well, there's only one position that's better than that and everything is worse. I'm not saying that's the way it is, but that's sometimes the way a competitive brain thinks. But what has your personal growth journey been like through your years in pageants?
I have grown so much in every area of my life through competing in pageants. I think pageants are really unique, and especially coming from a sports background where I am so competitive, pageants are something where you are judged in every area of your life. You're judged on your appearance, your physical fitness, your communication skills, your charitable efforts, your resume. And so it has pushed me to improve in all of those areas. And through the years competing, I feel like I've become a stronger competitor and I've placed higher and done better every single year, which has been awesome to see my growth actually externally rewarded as well with my placements. But last year being first runner-up, that was really difficult, but also really special as well because I've grown up watching pageants. Like I said, I used to watch Miss USA and Miss Universe with my mom, and they always show that crowning moment with the 2 girls holding hands. And until last year, I had never been in that moment. So to be up there in the top 2, it was kind of thrilling. I mean, I was having the time of my life. I was really up there. The lights were going, the crowd was going. Obviously, I wanted it to be my name that was announced, but Perry, Miss Massachusetts USA, she was actually one of my close friends from the pageant and has been my close friend throughout this entire year. So if it wasn't going to be me, I was happy it was someone that I respected and was friends with. And I remember after the pageant, obviously it stings a little bit because you're so close and it hurts in a different way than losing in any other placement hurts, but it's also validating knowing that you're so close because I felt like that was a vote of confidence as well, that the judges saw that I could do this job, which is why I came back, because I feel like that vote of confidence is what I needed to know that my dream of going to Miss USA would happen, hopefully, in the future.
When are you competing next? Is it in a couple of weeks?
It's in a couple of weeks. Yeah, June 21st. It's at the end of this month.
Okay, so if in a couple of weeks you happen to do one placement better, that's as best you can do. That's all you can't do 2 placements better. But have you given any thought to so you said that was the first time you were doing the top 2 thing where the girls are holding hands. Have you given any thought to what your reaction is going to be like if you do that one place better? Are you going to black out? Are you going to be emotional? Are you going to be stoic? Like, what are you going to do?
Yes, of course I'll be emotional. I think I'll probably cry, happy tears. I'm just going to try not to pass out because I'm actually a fainter. So whenever I'm up there on stage, I'm just thinking, don't lock my knees and breathe. So I always, when I'm up there, that's what I'm thinking in my head. Just breathe and don't lock your knees.
because I'm going to say for you, it's a long way down. Like if you're 5 foot, it's not that long to the ground, but if you're nearly 6 foot, it's a long way down.
So if I hear that, I'm just going to make sure I'm still breathing.
So everyone who's competing there, just get ready to catch Hannah if things go pear-shaped. Now, on a more personal note and a more serious note, you mentioned, well, in the bio, I mentioned brain tumor. I actually lost my grandmother to a brain tumor when, I was, I think, 12. And at that age, you think someone in their mid-60s is old. But, with the passing of time, you realize mid-60s is very young, especially this day and age. And I was really close to my grandmother. And when you're in hospital and I lost both grandparents to cancer. And there's something about cancer that's just, it's terrible because it takes the person away from you even before they pass. Now, I'm not going to go into my own story, but you obviously being a lot younger, walk us through the journey. Because I imagine, I won't speak for you, but you noticed some warning signs or something. You went to have a diagnosis and then you got the absolute worst news in the world. And that's not supposed to be happening to someone at your age, right? You're supposed to be invincible at that age. Walk us through the journey.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And unfortunately, brain tumors and cancer, it touches a lot of people and families, and it's really, really sad. And it's not something that I ever thought was going to hit me, especially so young. No one expects to receive a diagnosis like that in their 20s. I thought I was young and healthy and had my whole future ahead of me. And hopefully I still do. Thankfully, I'm healthy and healed now. But I had a couple years where I was having really weird symptoms and we couldn't figure out what was wrong. I went to a lot of different specialists and was kind of dismissed with my symptoms. I mentioned the passing out, but I was passing out, nausea, migraines, some vision changes, things like that a lot of doctors kind of explained away as stress. This is just part of growing older, being a woman, things like that. And thankfully, my father is actually a doctor and he was doing some research. And, no one cares about you as much as your family. And he was looking into it and he said, you know what, I think we really should rule out the worst possible cause of what your symptoms could be. And so he talked to some of his physicians and we were able to get a scan of my brain ordered with some contrast dye. And when I got the results back from that scan, there was a mass in my brain and it was a brain tumor. And that was 2 years ago now. And it was the scariest thing that I've ever gone through. It was really, really difficult. I had to move home for a period of time, take time off work to go through treatment. And, the medications and some of the things I was going through, it has a lot of side effects. So it made me feel even worse than the brain tumor did, just going through the treatment. And it was really hard. Thankfully, I'm on the other side of that. Like I said, now healed and hopefully it doesn't come back. But it gave me a lot of perspective because, like I said, being so young, you don't think that, you're going to wake up tomorrow and have a serious health issue. And so now I take every day. I don't take tomorrow for granted. I have a lot more gratitude for each and every day. So even to be back competing for Miss Massachusetts USA, I feel really grateful for that because to live my dreams and chase these passions, I feel a lot of joy in that because I wasn't able to do that for that period of time.
You mentioned that your father is a doctor. I come from a family of doctors. So in many ways, I feel very fortunate. If there's anything wrong, even if I'm being a bit of a hypochondriac, and I'm by no means saying that you are, but I can get things tested in a way. I'm in Australia, you're in America, it's different, but still, like when you have a family of doctors, sometimes it's not the best thing, right? So sometimes like when they're all around and they're all talking medical terms, I'm like, what? But if something is going wrong, yes, they absolutely jump in and, whether it's my brother, my mother, my father, they can do all those things. I want to approach this through a few angles. First off, when you said you had issues getting diagnosed in the first place, this is not something, unfortunately, that's unique to you. There seems to be an issue, especially with younger women, being taken seriously and taking way too long to get the correct diagnosis. And in the case of something like a tumor, you want to act soon, like as soon as you can, because mortality rates or the survival rates are much better when you get something early. Now, I don't know, I'm sure you've had a chance to think about it, but Why do you feel you had issues getting diagnosed? Was it more that you weren't being taken seriously? Was it more that you maybe weren't confident enough to really vocalize the issues that you had, and that's why it was explained away? Because you
Mhm.
mentioned like vision changes. That one can't be explained away by being a woman. I mean, the other one's migraines. A lot of people have migraines. Some people pass out. The vision changes, for me, even not being a doctor, that's a bit of a warning sign.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
over to you. Like, why do you feel you had issues getting diagnosed for something as serious as a brain tumor?
Mhm. Unfortunately, I think some of it is age, and maybe doctors have preconceived biases about, young patients shouldn't be coming in for a brain tumor, so that's not their first thought. And I was trying to advocate for myself and share my symptoms, but it did take several years. And once I was diagnosed, what I was told was this was probably growing for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's good we found it now, because if it had been growing for another 6 months, like, we don't know where you would be at. So that's partly what I want to share as Miss Massachusetts USA is my story, but also how it can help other people, especially for young women who are going through something. I think it's so important to trust your gut, because you know your body best. If you don't feel like yourself, if you feel like something is really wrong, which is how I felt, be relentless until you get that diagnosis, and make sure you're advocating for yourself. I would go into
Yeah.
doctors' offices with a little notebook. I would make sure I wrote down exactly what I wanted to say, the questions that I had. And I think that's really important, to advocate for yourself so that you're getting the care that you need.
Did you get angry when you got the news that it had been growing for 3 years?
I don't think I was angry. I was sad. I was scared. There was a little bit of frustration about, how did I
Mm.
see all of these doctors? I probably had seen 7, 8, 9 different specialists
Wow.
and just hadn't gotten an answer. And it was
Yeah.
only when my own dad looked into it that I was able to kind of get that test to get the answer that I needed. So it was frustrating. So I think there was a little bit of anger there as well, just disappointment in our healthcare system, how this could be missed.
Did you say that you saw 7, 8, or 9 specialists?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because that's next level. Because normally the tale is you go from the generalist doctor, which we call here general practitioner. I don't know what you guys call it over there in
Hmm.
America, but when you get to see the specialist, that's supposed to be when you get the diagnosis that you're looking for. You said it took 3 years seeing 7 to 8 to 9 specialists. So that you must have had to really advocate for yourself, because to even get a second opinion is one thing. To
Hmm.
get 9 second opinions, that's something else.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure it's a little different, obviously, in Australia and the US, and depends on your insurance and all of that. But I was trying to see as many different doctors, get second, third, fourth opinions as I could. And it took a good bit of time before I was
Yeah.
able to get the answer.
Well, I'm glad you finally got the diagnosis that I'm not gonna say you deserve, that's a horrible wording, but I mean, look, props to your dad for
Figure out
doing what,
what's wrong.
you know, to dad. Now the treatment, can you walk us through that? And I'm not asking this to be graphic, but I know that, if you had chemo and things like that, or it's radiation, hair drops out, right? Or a young model such as yourself, that's not ideal. Weight gain, weight loss, nausea, having no energy when you're an athlete, you're competitive, you can't get out of bed sometimes. What was that part like? So you've gone through the 7, 8, 9 specialists to finally get the diagnosis, and then it's like the hard part begins. What was that like for yourself?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with a pituitary adenoma, and my tumor
Right.
was 7 millimeters in size, which doesn't sound that big. It's about the size of a pencil eraser. But when it's in your brain and it's pressing on important different systems and functions, it can have a big impact. And thankfully, my tumor wasn't cancerous. So I just want to make that distinction. It wasn't cancerous, which I'm so grateful for, because some tumors of that type and a lot of brain tumors are. So that did
Yeah.
impact my treatment. I didn't have to go through radiation, and I did have to take some pretty serious medications that did have side effects, but I
Yeah.
didn't have to take, anything like a chemo drug or radiation. But the medications that I did take, and some which I'm still on, do have a lot of side effects in terms of my energy, my mood, my sleep, just being able to work out. out and feel like I have my energy and am my full self. And I did have, some weight loss, just issues with my stomach and stomaching food and nausea, and all of that was still there throughout treatment. So I was able to kind of figure out with my doctors and care team what was the best medication and, pairing of different medications to make me feel my best. So it was a little bit of trial and error before I started the healing journey, but it was tough. I mean, I actually work with my job with brain tumor patients, with glioblastoma patients, which is a very aggressive cancerous tumor.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not the sort of tumor that I had, but just going through that experience and going through some of the same tests that they go through for GBM, it taught me a lot of perspective. And I feel like I can empathize with the patients that I work with for work.
With the career that you're in, did you decide on that before your own health struggles?
No, it was after. So I was working in engineering in the medical device field, but I was actually working in cardiology. And then only in the last year did I switch over to neuro-oncology, so working with brain tumor patients. And part of the reason that I made that switch was because of this health journey that I went on myself, because I just felt really moved by what I went through. And I felt like working in a field with brain tumor patients, I'd be able to make an impact.
Can you, Hannah, describe how you've changed as a person through the process? I know that's a horrifically general question, but maybe even something as mundane as you watch what you eat a bit more, or maybe your daily routine has changed. But also, I mean, your outlook on life, it must shift when you go through something like that as a 20-something-year-old.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is that it's given me a greater appreciation for family, because my dad was the one who helped get me diagnosed, obviously. And one of the side effects for the sort of tumor that I have can be fertility issues and can cause infertility in women. And as someone who's very family oriented, I always wanted to have kids one day. And I hope that's still something that I can do. But to have in the back of my mind that this brain tumor might impact that for me, it's really heartbreaking and saddening. And so I have a greater appreciation to my family because of that. And I mentioned the gratitude and just the appreciation for every day. That just mindset has definitely changed, but in smaller ways. I think I'm easier on my body. I know I need more rest. I know that I need to be eating healthy, limiting inflammation in my body as much as possible in terms of, fried foods or even just lifestyle changes. I've definitely made some shifts. So small ways and big ways, I do think it has changed me a lot.
It can be pretty hard depending on where you're living. I don't know what it's like where you're at, but it can be pretty hard from my experience in the United States to avoid fried food.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you go out to eat, definitely. But I cook most of my meals at home. And obviously with modeling and being on this pageant prep journey with Morgan, I do a lot of meal prep at home. So thankfully that helps avoid the fried food.
Has Morgan had to make any special accommodations with you? Because I know from talking with her behind the scenes, we've tried to accommodate everything from Waffle House to In-N-Out burgers. Has she had to make any special accommodations for yourself?
Well, I did tell her about this because I know she works with, women with hormonal issues and things like that. So I wanted her to know my whole health journey and health history before we started. The biggest thing she's helped me with is actually just being able to travel and how to eat healthy on the go. Because of my work, I do travel quite a bit. And so staying healthy and finding healthy options on the go, I'm always texting her, messaging her about that.
Right. Can you, because we've got a lot in your bio, can you just trace a timeline for us? So we have you at the age of 14 doing your first teen pageant. Then at some point, tennis came into it. Then at some point, there was a diagnosis. And then at some point, you ended up studying engineering, which is a whole other story. I studied engineering as well. Okay. And I can only imagine what it was like going into an engineering field, someone like you, who looks like you. That would have been, I'm sure you can say, to give me a few interesting tales about that.
Oh, definitely.
What was a timeline like here? Because we have a lot compressed in a very short time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that I have a lot of different facets of my life, and I've lived a lot of lives for someone in their 20s, but I started playing competitive tennis when I was 13. So I played that all throughout my teenage years. And at the same time, I was kind of dabbling in pageants and modeling. So I competed in Miss Florida Teen USA. I think it was 2014. And that was my first time competing at a state pageant. So I'm originally from Florida, although I've been in Boston and Massachusetts about 5 years now. So I did that. And then I actually ended up competing in the Miss High School America system a year later. I won the state title, went to the national pageant, and placed top 15 and had a great experience with that pageant in San Antonio. And then I took a couple years off from pageants because I was playing tennis and I wanted to focus on that. And I ended up having an injury hurting my wrist. So I wasn't able to play tennis in college. So we'll get into that as well too, because I thought, tennis was going to be my future. I loved playing tennis. That was kind of who I was as a person, and I was homeschooled. So I was giving everything I could to this sport. And then I had to reevaluate because I didn't even know what I wanted to study in college if I wasn't going to be playing tennis.
What happened to your wrist, dare I ask? Did you do something to your hitting arm?
Yeah, it was while I was playing a tournament. It was just a tweak, and then it never got better, and it was kind of an overuse thing, and I couldn't play as many hours and as much as I used to play. So it was really heartbreaking. I had defined myself as an athlete for so long. So then when that was taken away from me, especially since I was homeschooled and I had given up going to a regular high school to pursue this dream of playing tennis, that was really tough because I didn't have, I didn't go to high school. I didn't have normal friends. I didn't really go to prom or do any of the normal high school things. So all I had was my love of tennis, and then I didn't really have that anymore. So that was really, really tough to kind of reframe my identity, who I was.
Can I ask you, why do you love tennis so much? I have my own theories as to why it's the one sport that I can't encourage enough people to take it up. There's also studies, I don't know if you've seen them, that people who do racket sports in particular, their brains.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So I was like, that's more marketing material for tennis. I have my own, why do I love tennis? But why did you love tennis so singularly much?
Yeah. It's a really artistic and beautiful sport in my eyes. It's not a sport of brute force. Tennis is very graceful. You have to have touch. You have to have finesse. And I think that's why I like it so much. And I love that it's an individual sport, but it can also be a team sport as well. You can play doubles, and I played doubles with my sister actually growing up. So I think there's so many things about it. It's also something you can do your whole life. I still play here and there. I play with my dad and my family. You can do it for your entire life. And I think mentally it's very stimulating as well. It's socially stimulating. It's fun to get out and hit with people. I think it's the best sport in the world.
You said Federer was your favorite player, and you mentioned the artistry of tennis. So I have to ask, why don't you have a one-handed backhand then? Why do you have a two?
Well, my volley, I would do one-handed and a one-handed slice sometimes. So, but you can't compare the power sometimes with two hands on the backhand.
Okay. Did you ever try hitting a one-hander out of interest?
Of course.
How did it go?
Yes, I tried. And I did a bunch of drills. I don't know, when you played as well, I'm sure you would swap, try to do right-handed, left-handed, and try to do it on either side to build up your skill. So there was a lot of that going around with either hand, but ultimately I feel like two-handed backhand was just the best for me.
Yeah. I actually grew up with, I think I told you this, I grew up with a two-hander, and then when I became a coach, because you have to hold, all the balls in one hand. You can't say, wait a minute, and, take another ball out of your pocket. I remember my boss, when I was having too much of an easy time beating up on the students, he made me play wrong-handed. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about serving wrong, which is a whole other, that one pretty.
Oh, I've tried that. It doesn't go well.
No, it gives you a new appreciation for what some other people are struggling with. But the thing I love about tennis is there's no draw. I don't know about the format that you played in. You are there within reason. You got to figure things out by yourself. I know in college or school tennis, it could be different. And now even on the pro circuit, you can get more coaching. But it used to be, you had to figure out everything by yourself. You weren't playing against the clock. You play until you win or lose.
Yeah.
And it's all on you. It was, as much as you said, the artistry, it's so much of a mental sport. Like, I don't know if this was ever, I'm sure you were always playing flawlessly, but for me, you'd be on the practice court going, wow, I'm Roger Federer. And then you get on the court and you miss the ball completely. Did you enjoy those aspects of it as well as a competitive player?
Oh, absolutely. I think what you mentioned as well, there's not really a clock. So, you can have a game or a set that basically goes on forever depending on a tiebreak. So I think that's really cool as well. But it is mentally really challenging. You have to be focused. And also, if things don't go your way, it's easy to get derailed where the momentum is going in a negative direction. And how do you pull that back and get back on track?
Have you ever smashed a racket?
I have never smashed a racket.
Have you ever thrown a racket? No, not what?
No, I'm not a racket smasher or thrower. I'm not too crazy like that. Although there is a guy that we used to play with, and he was always throw his racket over the courts, over the fence, into a nearby lake. So we would watch him, and I would say, I'm never going to do that.
As an experiment, because as a tennis coach, what you find is a lot of the kids leave their rackets behind. And, after it hasn't been claimed for a year, you figure, well, they're never going to come back for it. And so as an experiment, I tried smashing a racket. It's not easy. Like, they're very, very hard to break. If you don't throw it properly, it bounces back and hits you in the face, which is just... Well, moving on. No, it's not easy. I don't throw my rackets because, frankly, they're really expensive. Like, at the moment, they're costing a competitive racket here in Australia is over $300, and so I don't want to break it. Do you have a favorite tennis memory?
I got to meet Maria Sharapova, which was pretty cool because growing up, I always looked up to her. When I was younger, and I actually went to IMG Academy for a couple years, which is a boarding school.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah,
Hannah, I only say this because I previously interviewed someone who said she was really into tennis, and then she proceeded to tell me that she had a front hand. And at that moment, you lose all credibility when you say that you have a front hand and a backhand. So when you say Sharapova and you say IMG Academy, I'm going, this is legit. Not to say that I do.
Well, tennis, so you can appreciate that. But yeah, I would go to IMG Academy on and off while I was homeschooled to train. And Sharapova was training there at the time. Nick Bollettieri was famously her coach. She started the tennis there.
Did you ever get to meet Bollettieri?
I had some privates with him actually while I was at IMG.
I'm sorry, watching at home, you guys going like, but Bollettieri, because he's like, if you know tennis, you know Bollettieri. The guy couldn't play to save his life though. But what was he like?
He had this VIP chair, and he would sit on his chair and watch. And someone else was feeding you the balls, and he would give feedback, but he was just sitting and watching and just coaching. But he was incredible. I mean, he was older when I got to meet him and work with him, but such a talent.
Was it intimidating playing in front of him? I wouldn't mind hitting with Sharapova would be one thing, but playing in front of Bollettieri, that would be scary for me.
Oh yeah, of course. When I first went there, I was very, very nervous, and I was also young. I mean, this was back when I was like 15, so to go away from home and be at a boarding school academy, and it was crazy, but it was awesome. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to hit in front of him. It was really cool.
Do you remember the advice he gave you, if any?
I'm sure he had some tweaks. I think we were working on my forehand. He didn't have any, life-altering prophecy of advice, but I'm sure he sees so many people come in and out. Just to be in front of him and get a little bit of feedback on my form was really cool.
Yeah, he was a once in a lifetime because he wasn't. I don't think he was a competitive tennis player growing up. I think he was in the Army or the Navy or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was military, and he was just really a coach, I think.
Yeah, and if you saw him play, you'd never think anything of him. But I mean, he's probably one of the most famous, if not the most famous coach we have our sport ever had. Engineering. Okay, so I was getting you to paint the timeline, and we got about halfway through. So we're in school. We're not in school. We're tennising. We're in front of Bollettieri, Sharapova, and IMG. Then Hannah does her wrist. So at what point do we go into the engineering?
So I got injured when I was 17. So I had about a year left before I went to university to study engineering. And at the time, because I had been homeschooled and I was doing kind of virtual school and splitting time between IMG, my credits wouldn't even transfer back to the local high school. So then my senior year of high school, I actually was still homeschooled, but at that point, I wasn't even playing tennis anymore. So that was probably one of the darkest points of my life because I didn't have tennis. I was very lonely. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I ended up getting a full ride academic scholarship for college and decided to study engineering because I had several family members that were engineers and I always had liked math and science. And that kind of set me on the path to pursue engineering.
Right. Well, you're one of the more unusual ones. And I will say when it comes to pageantry, most pageant girls don't like math.
No, they don't. I mean, I really like math. And I remember when I went to my orientation for college, I had already taken some college level math classes, Calculus 1, Calculus 2. So I was trying to start with Calculus 3 when I was going into my freshman year. And I remember the advisor said, well, we don't let anyone register for Calculus 3 because we need to know what your exam score is from your Calculus 2 that you just took. And you needed a 5, which was the highest score that you could get on the exam. It was 1 through 5, and 5 was like the top 5%. No one got 5s, the advisor told me. And so he said, you can't register for Calc 3 unless you got a 5 on this exam, and no one gets that. So I said, no, I think I got a 5. You should let me register for Calc 3. And so he said, okay, but if you don't, you're going to have to switch your schedule, and it's going to all get messed up. And I got my exam score back and I had gotten a 5. So I got to stay in the Calculus 3 freshman year.
Good for you. That's what, have you ever thought about the role that resilience has played in your life? I mean, it sounds like you would have had to deal with so many, miniature stories of, I'm destined to do this. One day I'll be on Wimbledon Centre Court or Flushing Meadows, and I'll be hoisting that trophy, and then that didn't happen. Yeah. And then you had to change plans, and then you're doing life, and then the brain tumor situation happened, which is not written in anyone's story, and then you needed to adjust to that. I mean, you must have at some point either been born the most resilient person on earth, or if not, you had to become it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a little bit of both. I think naturally I'm a very optimistic person. I'm a really hard worker. I'm also very self-motivated. So I'll find a way. And if I have a goal, I'm going to do everything in my power to achieve it. But then even, in the last several years, having these different changes in my life story and these different things that happen that deter me from the path that I think that I'm supposed to be on, I have a lot of trust and call it faith and God's plan and destiny, and just trusting that's what meant for me will work. And, some of these things, even looking back, like had I played tennis in college, like I had wanted to, I don't know if I would have studied engineering, because being a college level athlete takes so much time. And then when I was studying engineering, I felt like all I did in college was study. So I also look back at, my pageant journey, and I've been competing and I haven't won yet. I haven't made it to the Miss USA stage, but say I had won a couple years ago, and then I had to go through my brain tumor journey as a state title holder, and maybe had to resign or wouldn't have been able to give Miss USA my full energy. So I feel like something that my life has taught me is just trusting timing. And I think all of these things have, even though I wouldn't wish them on anyone, I think they've made me a better person and really shaped me.
Because I'm sure you do have some plans, what are your plans should you take out the title in 2 weeks? And then let's even, speak it into existence. If you take out the big one in August, what are you going to do with it? I'm sure you're giving it some thought.
Yes. Well, obviously I want to share my story, share a message of hope through what I've been through, especially with my brain tumor, and show others that if they have a diagnosis like this, it doesn't have to define them. It doesn't have to limit them, and they can overcome it. But more than that, something that I really believe in, and I think that I embody, is that women can do both. You don't have to put yourself into one box, and you can do anything that you set your mind to. I'm an engineer. I work in a very male-dominated field, but I also have a lot of creative passions. I love modeling. I love competing in pageantry. I love doing social media, and you can do both and find femininity in engineering, working in a male-dominated field. And I think Miss USA today is a very multifaceted woman, and I feel like I embody that, and we need a brand brand ambassador for the Miss USA organization who is going to relate and resonate to different communities and not just the pageant industry. And I think that's how we bring pageantry forward and keep it relevant.
I mean, I think you pretty much define multifaceted, Hannah. I mean, you just got back from Miami. You can talk calculus. You did engineering. You're modeling. You did the tennis thing. You know who Nick Bollettieri is. You played in front of him. Okay. Is there anything you can't do? Are you like really tone deaf or something? Like, because at this point, like,
I can't sing. I'm not a great singer. I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. Good. There's something that you can't do. I don't know how you, because time management for you, because when I was engineering, I remember the art students would be complaining, oh no, I've got so many hours this semester. How many? Oh, 10 hours per semester. I'm like, I have 34 and I'm working on the side. And here you are complaining about 10 hours per semester, but you did that with everything else going on. So your time management must be pretty on point.
It is. I'm very organized. I'm very type A. I have a written planner. I have my planner on my computer, my Google Calendar. So I live by that because especially with everything going on in my life, you have to be. But especially when I was studying in college, I think it's about priorities and what's your top priority at the time. So right now, and especially the last 6 months, my top priority is Miss Massachusetts USA and Miss USA. But when I was in school, studying and doing well, especially because I was on an academic scholarship, so I had to keep my GPA to keep the funding for my education. So I just studied. I would get up at 5 a.m. and study in the morning. I would go to the library on Saturdays. We would have big football games at Florida State. And I remember I would look forward to the Saturdays of a football game because the library would be empty and I could go study. So I was really just going all in on my engineering education. But now that I am out of school and I'm working and I'm focusing on the pageant journey, I'm all in on that. And I think it's just prioritizing what's important at that stage of your life.
2 questions. Number 1, do you have any downtime? Number 2, if so, what do you do in your downtime?
Yes, I do have downtime. I probably need more of it. As my family will tell me, I need to rest. But I like to read. I like to watch reality TV. I just started watching Love Island. The new season just came out last week. So just like some trash television to get my mind off things where I don't have to think about anything serious. That's kind of how I unwind and relax.
Okay. Yeah, well, if you want to define trash television, I would certainly put Love Island at the top. But
it is. But I'm like way behind. I said I was going to watch, and now I'm 10 episodes behind, and I know what happened because of spoilers on the internet. So it's not going well.
No, that's what I do too. I always look, if there are spoilers, I actually look for the spoilers so then I don't have to watch them.
No, you're one of those.
I love telling people how it ends. That's my favorite. That's my favorite thing to do in the world. Well, we've been on for a while. So just before we go to the final 10, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
My family, my parents, my mom and dad. They're probably watching because I sent them the link, but I'm really grateful to my family. I think everything that I've been through, I wouldn't be where I am without them. They've been my biggest supporters through the up and the down. And I think family is everything. So I'm really grateful to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys have done phenomenally well to make it through so many different challenges. It's certainly not easy. So well done to the Kelsey family. Let's go through these final 10, shall we? Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Excellent.
What is your least favorite word?
Moist.
Can you say that again without the facial expression?
No, I can't. And please don't make me. There's a thing where that's like the worst, the people's least favorite word. It is kind of a yucky word.
In life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Sunshine.
What turns you off?
Rain. The weather has a big impact on me, especially living in New England. Honestly, this summer I'm much more motivated and happy.
I was going to say, you just sound like a tennis player because that's like you can't play tennis when it's wet. That's all that I know.
You can't break it out of me.
Yeah. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
What kind of noise?
What sound or noise do you love?
I love country music. So like some
any particular
song. Sorry?
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, any particular artist?
I like Ella Langley, Morgan Wallen, Kelsey Ballerini, all the popular ones.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Cars beeping.
If you could have any superpower, what would you pick and why?
I would want to fly. And I frequently have dreams that I'm able to fly, and it's one of my favorite things, just so I could get places easily and see things from above. I like flying. I love being in an airplane. I think it's so cool.
Oh, those are the two recurring dreams that I have. Well,
Really?
the two recurring dreams, flying, and I always wake up disappointed that I can't. I almost feel tempted at times to jump out the window to see if I can, not that I have. But the other one that I have is I'm sitting for an exam and I haven't prepared. I don't know if you've ever had that. That's a recurring
I
nightmare
still get
for
those
me.
dreams. I do. I get the flying dreams. I get the exam studying dreams. And then I get that win my pageant or lose my pageant. I have all sorts of pageant dreams too.
Yeah. So these recurring nightmares. Number 8, if you could, what job would you most like to attempt other than your own?
A professional model, because I'm not doing that full time right now, but that would be a dream.
What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
A doctor, because even though I work in medical engineering, my dad's a doctor and I'm actually a bit squeamish when it comes to blood and needles and surgery. So I couldn't ever be a doctor.
Yeah, it's not good if you're faint to be squeamish around blood.
I'll faint with the flu shot sometimes. It's not good.
I
will say that my brain tumor and all the treatment and all of the blood tests and stuff I still have to get has made me less squeamish because of exposure therapy.
Well, I guess that's every cloud has a silver lining, right? Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done. Good job. And that you lived the plan that I had for you.
Well, Hannah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope, don't take this the wrong way, I hope your life is a bit less eventful than it sounds like it's been maybe for the last 10 or so years. But best of luck in 2 weeks' time. And then if that all goes your way, I'll be seeing you in Miami in a couple of months.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. This was so much fun. Thank you so much.
I'll keep you on the line for just a sec as I hang up with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you're a competitive pageant girl and you're after some high-performance pageant coaching, make sure to come and check us out at thepageantproject.com, where you can start your journey for free. In the meantime, follow us on all our socials at